Was there something sexual in the dismemberment of the bodies for you?
Yes, it was a sexual part.
Do you admit to being evil, Richard?
We are all evil in some form or another, are we not?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I lost my fucking life because of it. Couldn't even get a fair trial. Couldn't even get a fair investigation or nothing.
Would it be accurate to call that a frenzy, a sexual frenzy?
Well, yes, that's one way to describe it, a compulsion.
He was killed in the house in self-defense.
And who killed him then?
I saved him.
Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, Richard Ramirez, JOHN WAYNE GACY, AILEEN WUORNOS. O que eles têm em comum? Todos serial killers. Entrevistas realmente perturbadoras. O que uma pessoa é capaz de fazer para outra, ou com a outra. E o que eles falaram sobre tirar a vida de outra pessoa. Eu te convido a acompanhar comigo. Antes da gente começar, deixa um like nesse vídeo e já comenta se tá faltando alguém aqui. Bem, agora podemos começar. Um crime já deixa todo mundo apavorado. Agora imagina vários crimes cometidos por uma mesma pessoa. O que se passa na cabeça delas? Hoje a gente vai ver entrevistas que causam arrepios. Jeffrey Dahmer, o monstro de Milwaukee, tirou a vida de 17 homens e meninos entre 1978 e 1991. Os crimes de Dahmer eram hediondos, com algumas particularidades macabras. Ele praticava estupro, necrofilia e canibalismo. E por mais que muitos pensassem que ele era um psicopata, não era. Ele foi diagnosticado com um transtorno de personalidade antissocial, borderline e esquizotípico.
Hard for you to go back and talk about those things?
No, not the good things. In fact, it gives me a sense of comfort to talk about the few good times there were in the past. My childhood wasn't filled with any great tragedies or anything. There were good times and there were bad times.
Jeff, do you remember your earliest experience and earliest interest, fascination with the inside of animals?
9th grade, in biology class, we had the usual dissection of fetal pigs. I took the remains of that home and kept the skeleton of it. And I just started branching out dogs, cats. Why, I don't know.
Was there some pleasure in the cutting open of the animal?
Yes, there was. No sexual pleasure, but just it's hard to describe.
Sense of power, sense of control?
I suppose that's a good way of putting it, yeah. I don't know, it became a compulsion, and it switched from animals to humans. I still don't understand it.
One of your dad's biggest questions is when you began to slip away, when you crossed over into this world of obsession or dark fantasy from which you just couldn't return.
It was around age 14 or 15. Started having obsessive thoughts of violence intermingled with sex. And it just got worse and worse.
Do you have any sense for where that was coming from?
No. No, I've talked with a few psychologists about it. They have their theories, but they don't have any concrete answers either.
Do you have a theory?
No, not really. I don't know where it came from. I probably will never know. But I never dreamed that it would become a reality. It happened the first time. It just seemed like it had control of my life from there on in.
Did you ever tell yourself, I have to stop this? I must stop doing this?
Yes.
When it was going on?
After the second time, it seemed like the compulsion to do it was too strong, and I didn't even try to stop it after that. But before the second time, things had been building up gradually. Going to bookstores, going to the bars, the gay bars, bath clubs, just escalated slowly but surely. And after the second time, which was not planned, It was out of control. It felt like it was out of control.
Se você quiser conferir o vídeo completo, tem também aqui para você conferir no canal. Richard Ramirez, nascido Ricardo Leiva Munhoz Ramirez, aterrorizou Los Angeles e São Francisco entre 1984 e 1985. Parece pouco tempo, mas o estrago foi grande. Ele foi acusado de assaltar, torturar, estuprar, matar. Também conhecido como The Night Stalker ou assassino noturno.
What do you want the world to know about you?
The world has been fed many lies about me. I have read very few truths.
Who are you?
Just a guy. Just a guy.
Did you kill 13 people?
It would be improper for me to comment on my LA convictions and on my pending case here in San Francisco.
Why?
Because of my appeals.
Are you appealing these because you say you're innocent? You didn't kill 13 people?
That is correct.
You didn't kill 13 people.
Again, it would be improper for me to comment in any regard to that question.
You have now entered a very rare group of people in this country. You're in the ranks of Charlie Manson, Ted Bundy. You claim you didn't commit these murders, but you're right in there now as far as everybody else is concerned.
Serial killers do on a small scale what governments do on a large one. They are a product of the times, and these are bloodthirsty times. Even psychopaths have emotions if you dig deep enough, but then again, maybe they don't.
Do you have emotions, Richard?
No comment.
Tell me what kind of emotions you got going through you right now.
I'll tell you what, I gave up on love and happiness a long time ago.
Why?
I don't care to explain that.
Somebody-
Let the quote stand for itself. This nation, this country is founded in violence. Violent delights tend to have violent ends. Madness is something rare in individuals, but in groups, people, and ages, it is a rule. Killing is killing, whether done for duty, profit, or fun. Men murder themselves into this democracy.
You're good at reading your script, Richard, but you're not much at answering my direct questions. A lot was made that you're a devil worshiper. Do you worship the devil? Have you ever studied Satanism?
There are different sects of Satanism.
Have you studied, just yes or no, have you studied
Yes,
Satanism?
yes I have.
Are you a worshiper of the devil?
No comment.
Come on, Richard.
I can tell you a little bit about Satanism.
Well, I'm interested in hearing what you got to say then.
This admits to being evil.
Do you admit to being evil, Richard?
We are all evil in some form or another, are we not?
I'm asking you the questions, my friend.
Yes, I am evil. Not 100%, but I am evil. Evil has always existed. The perfect world most people seek shall never come to pass, and it's going to get worse. The great epochs of our life is when we gain the courage to rebaptize our evil qualities as being our best qualities.
Tem um vídeo completo se você quiser conferir aqui no canal. AILEEN WUORNOS ou Aileen Carol Pittman. Esse caso causou muita controvérsia. É um caso realmente muito complicado. Ela foi acusada por 7 assassinatos entre 1989 e 1990. As vítimas eram seus clientes dos programas que ela fazia. Porém, ela alegou legítima defesa. A fala dela é bem impactante.
The cops knew who I was after Richard Mallory died. I left prints everywhere, and they covered it up. And let me kill the rest of those guys to turn me into a serial killer. I know they did, because I was no professional serial killer or anything, or murderer, or whatever you want to call it, you know. I wasn't professional at what I was doing.
Eileen,
I did some sloppy work, you know, and I left prints. Yeah, thanks a lot. I lost my fucking life because of it. Couldn't even get a fair trial. Couldn't even get a fair investigation or nothing. Couldn't even have my appeals right. You sabotaged my ass, society, and the cops, and the system. A raped woman got executed and was used for books and movies and shit. Ladder climbs, the election, everything else. I got a big finger in all your faces. Thanks a lot. You're an inhumane bunch of fucking living bastards and bitches, and you're gonna get your asses nuked in the end. And pretty soon it's coming. 2019, a rock's supposed to hit you anyhow. You're all gonna get nuked. You don't take fucking human life like this and just sabotage and rip it apart like Jesus on the cross and say thanks a lot for all the fucking money I made off of you. And not care about a human being and the truth being told. Now I know what Jesus was going through. They've been trying to tell the truth, and I keep getting it stepped on. Concerned about if I was raped, I'm not giving you book and movie info. I'm giving you info for investigations and stuff, and that's it. We're gonna have to cut this interview, Nick. I'm not going to go into any more detail. I'm leaving, I'm glad. Thanks a lot, society, for railroading my...
Esse caso ainda não tem no canal, mas já segue e ativa o sininho que assim que eu postar o vídeo, você vai ser notificado. John Wayne Gacy também faz parte deste compilado de serial killers. Ele trabalhava como palhaço animando festas infantis e muito querido pela comunidade. Isso porque ninguém sabia quem realmente ele era. Pogo, o palhaço assassino, como ele ficou conhecido, torturou, estuprou e matou 33 jovens e adolescentes entre 1972 e 1978. Tudo isso na região metropolitana de Chicago. Ele foi condenado a 21 prisões perpétuas e 12 penas de morte.
Bleeping of the language, I will watch the language.
Yeah, he's gonna try. John does tend to slip into...
Well, I call it as I see it. Some people can't understand that. All right, so whenever the hell they're ready.
John, how about Tim McCoy, the last one of the 5 that you say you have personal knowledge of?
Tim McCoy, even though he's the last one, he's the first one.
He's the first one, actually.
Right.
The first of the 33.
Tim McCoy was the first one, and Tim McCoy's name wasn't put on him until 1988. Prior to that, he was known as Unknown Number 9, and he was buried by me in the crawl space. That's the only knowledge that I have of it.
What was the circumstances of that?
He was killed in the house in self-defense.
And who killed him then?
I saved him.
Yeah, and it was an issue of self-defense. Why was he in the process of assaulting you, or what?
He was coming at me with a knife. I just took the knife away and twisted it in his hand, and that's what killed him.
So at that point, you yourself did him then in the crawl space.
Right, and if you notice, he's under concrete.
Shoelaces, huh? You're in trouble now. Yeah, right. Aren't you afraid sitting that close to me? What the hell? Oh, this is too long. You don't need it this long. Okay. I had a rosary, which I carried in my pocket. I've always carried a rosary. It was my communion rosary. They said, well, what kind of a knot do you use? I said, what do you mean knot? When I tie things up? I says, depending on what I'm using it for, I said, the only thing I ever learned from Boy Scouts is a tourniquet knot. He said, well, show us what that is. So I took, at that time, and again, it's together, but in order to demonstrate it here, I took the rosary and I said, well, here, you put it around. This is hard trying to do this. Why don't you put your hand out? Okay, here. What I told him, I said, here, all you do is you wrap it around, you put one knot in it. And I said, then you put a second knot in it. Okay? I said, then you take a stick and stick it in here, and you just turn this. And I said, it causes a tourniquet. I said, that's the only knot I ever learned. People don't want to know the truth and the honesty of it. If they want to be convinced or brainwashed into what they believe, then fine, then go ahead and kill me. But vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, because you will have executed somebody that didn't commit the crime.
Se você quiser conferir o vídeo completo de John Wayne Gacy, o palhaço assassino, tem também aqui para você conferir no canal. Ele também passa por aqui, Ted Bundy. Ele confessou ter tirado a vida de 30 mulheres em 7 estados, de 1974 a 1978, mas a polícia acredita que o número de vítimas de Ted Bundy seja muito maior. Ele ficou conhecido por atrair e conquistar as suas vítimas pela beleza e pela boa lábia. Ted Bundy torturava, estuprava e matava suas vítimas. Um tempo depois ele acabou confessando que ele praticou necrofilia e canibalismo com elas. Ele arrastou multidões para o seu julgamento. A maioria, mulheres apaixonadas por Ted Bundy, por um serial killer. Algumas diziam que queriam ser a próxima. Olha que loucura. E mesmo diante de toda essa situação de julgamento e condenação, Ted Bundy estava sempre sorrindo e jogando o seu charme. Ele foi condenado à pena de morte.
Do Do you remember what pushed you over that edge? Do you remember the decision to go for it? Do you remember where you decided to throw caution to the wind?
Again, when you say pushed, I know what you're saying. I don't want to infer again.
I understand that.
That I was some helpless kind of a victim, and yet we're talking about an influence that is the influence of violent types of media and violent pornography, which was an indispensable link in the chain of behavior, the chain of events that led to the behaviors, to the assaults, to the murders, and what happened. It was like something had, say, snapped. That I knew that I couldn't control it anymore. That these barriers that I had learned as a child, that had been instilled in me, were not enough to hold me back with respect to seeking out and harming somebody.
Would it be accurate to call that a frenzy, a sexual frenzy?
Well, yes, that's one way to describe it. A compulsion, a building up of this destructive energy. Another factor here that I haven't mentioned is the use of alcohol. But I think that what alcohol did, in conjunction with, let's say, my exposure to pornography, was alcohol reduced my inhibitions. At the same time, the fantasy life that was fueled by pornography eroded them further. It just occurred to me that some people would say that, well, I've seen that stuff and it doesn't do anything to me, and I can understand that. Virtually everyone can be exposed to so-called pornography, and while they're aroused to it to one degree or another, not go out and do anything wrong. That was a major component, and I don't know why I was vulnerable to it. All I know is that it had an impact on me that was just so central to the development of the violent behavior that I engaged in.
Ted, after you committed your first murder, what was the emotional effect on you? What happened in the days after that?
Well, again, please understand that even all these years later, it's very difficult to talk about it, and reliving it through talking about it is difficult, to say the least. But I want you to understand what happened. It was like coming out of some kind of horrible trance or dream. I can only liken it to, after, I don't want to over-dramatize it, but to have been possessed by something so awful and so alien, and then the next morning wake up from it, remember what happened, and realize that basically, I mean, in the eyes of the law, certainly in the eyes of God, you're responsible. To wake up in the morning and realize what I had done, and with a clear mind and all my essential moral and ethical feelings intact at that moment, absolutely horrified that I was capable of doing something like that.
Tem um vídeo completo também do Ted Bundy, se você quiser conferir aqui no canal. Essas entrevistas chegam a arrepiar. Você conhecia algumas delas? Ou algum caso desses que eu trouxe para você? Tá faltando algum caso? Tá faltando alguma entrevista que eu não trouxe? Nesse vídeo eu posso fazer a parte 2 para você. Então já segue, curte, compartilha, e se você gosta desse tipo de conteúdo, se inscreve no canal. Clica aqui, tem outros vídeos para você conferir no canal. Não deixa de ativar o sininho de notificações, sempre que tiver um vídeo novo, você vai ser notificado. Obrigada por assistir e a gente se encontra no próximo caso.